In this video, I'll show you 8 different techniques for creating solid tattoo lines, and I'll also explain needle depth and the mistakes I try to avoid in my daily practice. Which technique is best for you will have to be determined by trying them out for yourself. But I'll talk more about my favorite technique later on. The needle depth for all needles ranges between 0.5 and 1.5 millimeters, depending on the body area and skin type. Going deeper can cause a blowout. I use my free hand to stretch the skin in all techniques to work precisely. When pulling a line towards myself, I may adjust the angle, but I usually hold the machine like this. For the lateral angle, it's crucial that it's not too flat to avoid creating a blowout. It would be best not to use this angle at all, but if you do use it, I wouldn't go flatter than this. If the voltage of the machine is too high, I try not to tattoo over the same line more than twice to avoid causing massive skin damage, as you can see here. Choosing the right needle for outlining is crucial for creating clean and precise lines in a tattoo. The most commonly used needle for outlining is the round liner needle. This needle has a single round needle configuration, which is perfect for creating sharp, clean lines. For all the techniques I'm about to show you, I'm using only one needle, specifically a 7-round liner 0.3 millimeters. In the first technique, I let the needle protrude approximately 1 millimeter from the needle module. This is how I hold the tattoo machine. Since the needle only protrudes 1 millimeter from the module, I don't need to focus on depth because I can work with it hitting the stop. However, this technique only works on even surfaces. It doesn't work where depth varies on body parts. There's also a significant drawback here due to the unclear needle guidance, making it challenging to continue a line because the ink spot on the skin and the needle module obstruct the view. This is also why it's difficult to work cleanly on edges, as you can see here. For all the other techniques I'm about to show you, the needle protrudes approximately 4 millimeters from the needle module. In the next technique, I hold the machine at this angle and pull it toward me. I stabilize the guiding hand with my thumb, and it's essential to move the entire hand uniformly in one direction. This technique is very popular among tattoo artists, but I don't use it as often because regulating the correct needle depth is not as simple, and you can't work with it hitting the stop since the skin creates waves from the needles pushing. So if you use this technique, don't work with it hitting the stop. In this method, I hold the machine like this and pull it towards me. I also support the guiding hand with my free thumb. Because the needle is pulled, it's gentler on the skin, and it's also my favorite technique, which I use for most lines in practice. The good thing about it is that the needle's angle already determines a line, as you can see here. If I don't have an angle and the machine is straight, the natural form is a dot. This is the same technique, but with a lateral angle. The angle should never be shallower than this. I often use this technique in areas where it's not possible to hold the machine straight. I try to avoid it, but sometimes I have to use it. As you can see here, if the lateral angle is too shallow, it can cause a blowout. In the next technique, I hold the machine like this and make small back and forth movements. I only use this technique in areas that are difficult to tattoo, such as an elbow or knee, because I found that these areas don't accept the ink as well. I always draw my lines at 8 volts, but this can vary depending on the manufacturer. You'll need to experiment to find the voltage that suits you best. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I would appreciate a subscription and a like. To those who already have, thank you very much. Let's talk about a mistake to avoid. It's important to move the machine evenly back and forth. Otherwise, you won't be able to create a nice line. For the next way to draw a line, I hold the machine like this. Since the hand movement already stretches the skin, I really like working with this technique and it's very practical. While I do push my hand, the needle is facing towards me, so this technique is much gentler on the skin compared to using a different angle. The same technique, but the needle is facing away from me, as you can see here. I actually don't use it at all. It's difficult to work with and it's much more aggressive to the skin. I have to admit, I could have tried a little harder to create a nice line here. But you know what it's like when you don't like something. Another important tip, which I have already explained in another video, is this one. If you deviate from the line even slightly, stop immediately and reposition your hand. In my opinion, one of the most important tips is that when you stop a line and want to continue later, it's important to exit the skin softly and re-enter softly. In this footage, you can clearly see what happens if you don't do this. It can lead to an unintended black spot in the line, which becomes visible when it heals. Here's a very clear visualization of how to do it correctly. These pictures look so cool. I would be interested if anyone can guess what material we used here, and to be able to display it so beautifully. Please write it to me in the comments. The winner gets a cookie. When tattooing a curve, I hold the machine like this and rotate my entire arm. I support the guiding hand with my thumb again and try not to change the angle of the machine, but move my entire arm. If you want to know which other needles I use for line work and why different needles should be guided at different speeds, watch this video here.